Hello everyone. I welcome you all to today's paper discussion session. So now that the response sheet has come out, so all of you might have already solved the questions, and some of the questions might have troubled you, might have a key discrepancy, you think, right? So we shall be taking up the questions here one after the other. So we shall be doing this paper discussion for Quant QA section in two parts. So part one is going to happen today, wherein we are going to cover the QA section, the essay part. Short answer type of questions will be done today in the next approximately 45 minutes to 1 hour. Then we'll next, that is tomorrow, we'll be going on with the MCQ type of questions, right? So please do join us tomorrow again for the MCQ question discussion. Today we shall be going ahead with the QA part of essay. So let's get started. So the questions that we had, and again, every paper will have a different order of questions. This is the order that the response sheet shared with us by one of the students had, right? So we'll be going in this particular order only. So let's go for this. So it says a man starts walking from point A to point B at 4 kmph. So speed of the man is given. After 30 minutes, a woman starts from point A at 6 kmph. If the woman reaches point B 20 minutes earlier than the man, of course, since her speed is higher, so maybe she was able to beat the man by 20 minutes earlier than the man, then the distance between A and B in kilometers is. What will be the speed? What is the speed of the man? It's 4 kmph. What is speed of the woman? It's 6 kmph. So let's assume the total distance. Let the distance be LCM of 4 and 6, I would say. Let's say some 12d. Let the distance be 12d. So if the distance is 12d, what will be time taken by the man to cover this distance? It will be nothing but time is nothing but distance by speed. So 12d by 4, which happens to be what? 3d hours. Because the speed is in kmph, let's take it as 3d hours. What will be time taken by the woman? It's again the distance upon the speed of the woman, which is 6. It's 2d hours. So as we see here, the man is taking d hours more than the woman. And here, please notice when you read the question, please observe that the woman is starting 30 minutes later and she is reaching 20 minutes earlier. So that means overall, can we not say that the time taken by women is less than the time taken by man by 50 minutes? So that means, can I say 3d minus 2d, the difference in the time taken is nothing but 50 minutes, and in hours it will be 5 by 6. So that means the value of d turns out to be 5 by 6. And what is the answer? The answer will be 12d, right? So thus can I say my answer will be the distance 12d, which is 12 into 5 by 6, which happens to be 10 kilometers, because the units of the speed is again kilometers per hour. So my answer here should be 10. I hope we are clear with this question. Let us move on to next question. So the answer here should be 10. I have also noted down the answers there, right? Now question number 2, if x comma y are real numbers and equations x square minus 12x plus 35 it is equal to 0 and x square plus ax plus 105 equal to 0, these two quadratic equations have at least one root in common. So have at least one common root, then the minimum possible value of this expression y square plus 4y minus 5 is how much? The minimum possible value. Okay, let's try to do one thing, because here we have no unknown. Let's try to solve this equation and find the roots, the values of x. So when you factorize it, this becomes x minus 5 into x minus 7, because the factors of 35 are 5 and 7, which will add up to minus 5 and minus 7, which will add up to minus 12. So when you factorize this, you'll get this. That means the value of x can be 5 or it can be 7. So that means the common root that we have between the two can be either 5 or 7, right? Or maybe both, but again, both is not really possible because I see there's a clear difference in the equation. So both roots cannot be common. So it's either going to be x equal to 5 or x equal to 7. So let's take two cases. So if x equal to 5 is a common root, it can't be both. I hope we are clear why, because if both are common, then the equation should be identical. They are not. So if you put x equal to 5, what do we get here? 25 plus 105 is 130, goes on the other side, will become is 5a. 5a becomes minus 130. So a will be minus 130 by 5 is minus 26. Or if x equal to 7 is common, then what will it make it? 49 and 105 will be 154, goes on the other side. This will be 7a. So a will be minus 154 by 7, minus 22. So depending on which root is common, we can have two different values for a. Now when you come to this expression, please note, since a is negative, can I write this expression as, observe, y plus 2 the whole square? Because when you expand y plus 2 the whole square, what do we get? Y square plus 4y plus 4. We don't have a plus 4 here, so let's add and subtract. So can I write this expression, the required expression? I'll do it on the next slide. The required expression, we want to find the minimum value of this, or not required actually, given. Let's take it as given. Is y plus 2 the whole square minus 4 minus 5a. Now I want to find the minimum value for this. Now very clearly we can see this expression will have minimum value when this becomes 0, right? Because this will be either 0 or positive. When this becomes 0, that is y equal to minus 2. So this will be what? Minus 5a minus 4. And we have values of a here. So if you want to have minimum value, can I say it's better we put a equal to minus 22 here. So when you put a equal to minus 22, minus 5 into minus 22 will be 110 minus 4. So thus the minimum value will be 106. No need to check for the value of a equal to minus 26 because that will be higher. Minus 5 into minus 26 will give you 130. It will be higher. So hence my answer should be 106. I hope we are clear with the discussion of this question. So question based on quadratic equation, the concept of common roots. Next, it's a puzzle. So I'm sure you'd have gone through this already. 5 friends A, B, C, D, E go on a trip together. Each of them likes at least one of the following 3 activities: countryside sightseeing, shopping, and adventure sports. So we have 5 friends. And we have 3 activities. The 3 activities are countryside sightseeing, shopping, and adventure sports. So we have 5 people and 3 activities. Let's read it further. What else is given to us? Further information. No 2 friends like exactly the same set of activities. What does this mean? This would mean, suppose, for example, if A likes only sightseeing, he doesn't like the other 2, then nobody else can have the same kind of preference. If A likes only sightseeing, nobody else can like that, right? Only sightseeing. They can like sightseeing and shopping, of course, but not only sightseeing. That's what is the understanding of the first point. A, B, and E like exactly 2 activities each. So this is exactly 2. B, exactly 2. E, exactly 2. Now, please understand, when you say exactly 2, it could be either sightseeing and shopping, or it could be shopping and adventure sports, or it could be sightseeing and adventure sports. So that means we can have only 3 distinct combinations of 2 activities. And those 3 distinct combinations should come with A, B, and E only. This in turn means one more thing. None of the others can be exactly 2. So C nor D can be exactly 2. They can never be exactly 2 because there are only 3 combinations of exactly 2 and all the 3 people are covered, A, B, and E. What else do we know? D likes only countryside sightseeing. So D likes only sightseeing, nothing else. So D is this. C cannot be only sightseeing again. Right? C could be either only shopping or only adventure or all the 3. It cannot be exactly 2. We wrote that already. C likes more number of activities when compared to D. Means what? So D is liking one activity. So C should like more than one. That means either 2 or 3, but 2 is not possible. Hence I conclude C will like all the 3. So C likes all the 3, D likes only sightseeing, and the other 3 like exactly 2. Next, the question, the number of ways in which a pair of friends can be chosen for a trip from those who like adventure sports. Now, how many people will like adventure sports? Let's try to understand. So here, I'm just trying to write one possibility here. Right? So A likes exactly 2. So let's assume it is sightseeing and shopping. So that means he doesn't like this. This combination could come with B also or with E also. I'm just assuming it is with A for the sake of discussion of this problem. If this combination is already done, then B, let's assume, likes sightseeing and adventure, sports, not shopping. Then E will like these two and not sightseeing. Please note what is written here in white can of course be interchanged. For example, this combination can come here, this can come here. They can be interchanged, right? Arranged. But overall, these are the 3 combinations that we'll get to see in A, B, E. Number of ways in which a pair of friends can be chosen for a trip from those who like adventure sports is. Now let's try to understand how many people like adventure sports. Definitely this person likes adventure sports. This person definitely doesn't like adventure sport. And out of the remaining 3, can I say exactly 2 people will like adventure sport. There'll be 1 person who will not like adventure sport and like the other 2. So that means in all, can I say there are 3 people, 3 friends who like adventure sport, and out of those 3, we have to select any 2. How many ways can we do it? 3C2, which is nothing but 3. So my answer for this question must be 3. A very, very direct question that we had. Now, next one, related question. The number of friends who like both shopping and adventure sports is shopping and adventure sports. Shopping and adventure sports. 1 person is this, 2nd person is C. So I don't know who it is. It could be A or B or E, but there is 1 person who likes shopping and adventure sports, and there's 1 more person for sure, which is C. So there are 2 people. My answer should be 2 for this. Next, question number 5. The number of friends that like countryside sightseeing. Let's count it. Countryside sightseeing is how many friends? So 2 out of A, B, and E. And there is C and there is D. So overall 4 people. Very, very easy question, if you'll ask me. So this was one set that must have been attempted by all the students, I would say. And I hope you have not missed it. A very, very easy direct question. Next one. Savitri borrowed 10,000 rupees from a bank for a period of 2 years at a fixed interest rate of 10% per annum, compounded semi-annually. That means every 6 months. And paid back 5,025 at the end of first year. Then the amount in rupees to be paid at the end of second year is. So what is the due amount at the end of second year? And please note, by the time we reach the end of second year, we would be done with compounding 4 times. Right? 4 times will be done. So let's try to solve this. So I started with 10,000. After 6 months, there will be compounding of 5%. That means this amount will increase by 5%. Again, after 6 more months, there will be compounding of 5%. And then some amount will be paid back, 5,025 or what? Yeah, 5,025. So 5% and 5%, what is the overall percentage increase? It's nothing but successive percentage change. So 5 and 5 will give you what? 5 plus 5, 10. Plus 5 into 5 by 100 is 10.25%. So that means this 10,000 should increase by 10.25. Now please understand what is 10.25. 10.25 is nothing but 10%, which is very easy to calculate. Plus 0.25%, which is nothing but 25% by 100, right? What is 10% of this? 10% is 1,000. What is 25% of this? It's 2,500 by 100 will give you 25. So it's 1,025 which will be added. Interest in 2 years. So that means the amount will become 11,025. And out of this, we are paying back 5,025. So that means how much is the amount due remaining after first year? 6,000 rupees. Now yet again, on the 6,000, the interest of 10.25% will be calculated. What is 10.25 again? 10% is 600. Plus 25% is 1/4, which is 1,500 by 100 is 15. So 615 interest will be added. So 6,000 and 615 will make it 6,615. So that means this is the total due at the end of second year. And we have to pay exactly this much amount to close the loan. So what's the amount to be paid at the end of second year? I'll say 6615 is the answer. Okay, 6615. Next one. In a company, initially the ratio of foreign and domestic workers was 5:8. I'll write like this: F foreign workers, D domestic workers. The ratio initially was 5:8. So suppose this is some 5x, 8x. X is the common factor. When some foreign and 12 domestic workers left, so some foreign, let's say 5x minus k. K is that unknown number of foreign workers leaving, and 12 domestic workers. So 8x minus 12 will be left. Workers will be left. This ratio became 2:3. So that means this ratio, if I write down somewhere else, 5x minus k upon 8x minus 12 is 2:3. Later, when 10 more foreign workers were replaced by 10 new domestic workers, so that means this is reducing by 10, right? This is increasing by 10. So 8x minus 12 plus 10 will make it 8x minus 2. This ratio becomes 3:7. This ratio becomes 3:7. Right? Earlier it was 2:3, this ratio, as I wrote there. And now the ratio becomes 3:7. So if I write it, 5x minus k minus 10 upon 8x minus 2 is what? 3:7. The initial number of domestic workers in the company was, so you have to find this 8x. Let's try to do one thing here. Let's try to understand some ratios. Now, here, what was the ratio here? This was 2:3. So if this is 2 parts, this will be 3 parts. Next, here the ratio is 3:7. So that means if this is 3 parts, this will be 7 parts, correct? Also notice, whatever were the number of foreign and domestic workers here, whatever is the gap. Suppose what is the gap right now? Gap is 1 part. 3 parts minus 2 part is 1 part. Now that gap, can I say, will increase. Now why will it increase? Because this value is reducing further by 10, and thus corresponding to that, those 10 people, because they are getting replaced, this value will increase by 10. So the gap here will increase by 20. Here, whatever is the gap, for example, suppose the gap was 4 people. If the gap was 4, it will become 24 here. It will increase by 20. So once we understand that bit, can we say one thing here? Here the gap should increase by 20, and gap that we see is 4 parts. 7 parts and 3 parts is 4 parts. So can I write one small point here? Let us say, instead of taking 2:3, let us take a value. Right now the gap is only 1 part. Let's take a value which will make the gap 4 parts, so that it's easy for me to take 1/4. So I'll take this as 8 parts and this is 12 parts. So suppose this is 8a, some variable. Suppose this is 8a and this will be 12a. So the gap right now is 4a. So this 4a, when it comes here, will become 4a plus 20. And that should be equal to what? That should be equal to the gap here. So suppose this is 3b and 7b. So gap is 4b. So when you solve this, can I write the value of b as a plus 5 here? So we get a relation between a and d. So if b is a plus 5, notice one more thing here. Can we say, observe the gap here is 10. 8x minus 12 is becoming 8x minus 2. It's increasing by 10. So 12a will become how much? This will become b is a plus 5. So 7a plus 35. So from 12a, if it becomes 7a plus 35, the increase is of 10. So can I say this minus this? I'll write on next slide. 7a plus 35, number of domestic workers finally, minus 12a should be equal to 10. So when you solve this, 5a will be equal to what? 25. A turns out to be 5. And what is A? A is nothing but this. 60 people here. Now I had 60 domestic workers after 12 people left. So that means what will be initial number here? 72. I think this is what he's asking us. The initial number of domestic workers in the company was 72 should be the answer. Now please understand, if at all I was involved in solving these two equations and somehow trying to find out the value of x and k, it would have taken much longer time, right? As compared to this small observation wherein the gap here is increasing by 20 and all, and we made some relation between the variables that made the task a little bit easier. So 72 should be the answer. Now, eighth one, if n is an integer such that mod of n plus 6 minus mod of n minus 3 by square root of 100 minus n cube is greater than or equal to 0, then the number of possible values of n is. So square root of 100 minus n cube is given. Let's focus on that. Because for square root to be defined, the number inside the square root should be greater than 0, I'll say. In this case, because it's coming in denominator. Otherwise, greater than or equal to 0. So that means n cube should be less than 100. So that means the value of n should be less than cube root of 100. And since n is an integer, cube root of 100 is 4 point something. So it will be less than or equal to 4, I say. So the maximum value that n can take is 4. And there are infinitely many values, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, so on. But will all those values satisfy this inequality? Maybe not, we'll have to check. So one thing that we can do right now is, at this stage is, you check by substituting the values, whether this expression becomes greater than or equal to 0 or not, but that will be, of course, time taking. Alternately, what we could do is observe, since this is square root, it's going to be non-negative. So that means, can I say mod of n plus 6, the numerator I'm saying, minus mod of n minus 3 should be greater than or equal to 0. That should also be greater than or equal to 0. Now let's try to understand what does it mean. Mod of n plus 6 is nothing but the distance between the point n and the point minus 6. So this is the critical point, minus 6. So n can lie anywhere here. Mod of n plus 6 will be distance between the point n and minus 6. Mod of n minus 3 will be distance between n and 3. So distance between nn minus 6 and nn 3, the difference should be greater than or equal to 0, we see. So can I say one thing, n can never be on the left, because if you take to the left of minus 6, this distance is definitely going to be less than this. So expression will be negative. We cannot take that. So that means it's going to be to the right only, n value. That's for sure. That too, to the right, if you'll see, if you take the midpoint of these two, minus 6 plus 3 by 2 is what? Minus 1.5, somewhere here, minus 1.5. Of course, n cannot take minus 1.5, but theoretically speaking, if you put n equal to minus 1.5 here, this minus this will become equal to 0. But minus 1.5 cannot be taken, but any value on the right can be taken. How many values are there on the right? Minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and we can go till 4, not beyond that. So how many values can n take? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thus the answer here will be 6. I hope we are clear with the working. Ninth one. The remainder when 7 to the power 103 plus 7 to the power 101 is divided by 9. So let's look at the powers of 7. See, one thing that you can do is, of course, you can divide. You can divide 7 by 9 and say that the remainder is 7 or minus 2. So that means 7 to the power 103 will be nothing but minus 2 to the power 103. Then you can proceed like that. That's one way. Of course, you can do it like this. Here, I ask you to observe something. Can we notice if you take 7 cube, it's 343. Add up the digits, it's 10. So that means, can I say the remainder when you divide 7 cube by 9, which is nothing but 343 divided by 9, it's 1. Nothing but 1. So if 7 to the power 3 is 1, so can I say remainder when 7 to the power any multiple of 3 is divided by 9, it should be 1 power a, which is 1 only. Now can I write 7 to the power 103 is nothing but 7 to the power 102 multiple of 3 into 7. This when divided by 9 will give you 1 remainder. 7 divided by 9 will give you 1 remainder only, or you can say minus 2. So overall, can I say this will give you minus 2 as remainder, the first term. This will give you minus 2 remainder. Minus 2 or 7, both are okay. Let's look at the second term, 7 to the power 101. Can I think of it as 7 power 99 into 7 square? 7 power 19, and again the power is a multiple of 3, so it's 1. And 7 square is 49. 49 divided by 5. Sorry, divide by 9. 49 divided by 9 will be what? 4. So this is going to give us 4 remainder. So the first part is -2 or 7. Let's take -2. And second part is 4. So overall, can I say my answer will be -2 plus 4, which happens to be 2. So the answer here must have been 2. I hope we are clear with this. So far we are done with 9 questions. And out of these 9 questions, if you will see, maybe this will be slightly complicated, not easy to attempt. This might also trouble you because you might get engrossed in the set of equations and maybe lose track of time and effort. This was doable. This was not very complex calculation. I hope you see that, why I'm saying it's not that difficult. This was easy. This group was easy. Must have been attempted. And this one also, okay, I would say not very tough, not easy too, not tough though. And this one was easy, if you'll ask me. So that means there were quite a few easy questions that we had from this first 9 questions so far. Let's move on. Question number 10. The number of ways in which 3 distinct integers can be chosen from the set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. We have to select 3 distinct integers such that their product is divisible by 4. So let's do one thing. First, let's try to find all possible distinct selections of 3 numbers out of this 9. So total ways will be nothing but out of 9, I have to select anything. So 9C3. And how much is 9C3? 9 into 8 into 7 by 3 factorial, which happens to be 12. So 12 sevens is 84. So overall, we have 84 ways to select 3 elements out of this 9. But will all of them count? Maybe no. For example, if you select 1, 2, and 3, it won't count. You select 1, 3, and 5, it won't count. So that means there are certain combinations whose product will not be a multiple of 4, because that is what is asking us to check. Divisible by 4. Now, out of this total, I'll remove those combinations which will give you product not divisible by 4. What are they? Let's try to understand. Case 1 could be when you take all odd numbers combinations. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 5 odd numbers, you form combinations out of them. So 5C3. That product will never be a multiple of 4. Second, that is plus. You take 1 even number and 2 odd numbers. You cannot take 2 even numbers, please understand. The moment you take 2 even numbers, their product will be multiple of 4. You cannot take 2 even number. 1 even number and the remaining 2 odd. So 1 even number, which one? You cannot take 4 for sure, because then the product will become multiple of 4. You cannot take 8 also. So you can take either 2 or 6. So 2 ways of selecting that even number. And in how many ways can you select the odd? Any 2 odd numbers out of 5. So it's what? 10 and 20, 30. So these 30 combinations are to be rejected out of the total. And hence, can I say my answer will be 84 minus 30 happens to be 54. I hope you followed it. We could also do it in the positive way. When I say positive, what I mean is not rejecting the cases, but summing up all the cases. So that would be, I'll just write down the expression. I'll not get into the detailed calculation. So when will I get product as a multiple of 4? Let's think about that. Case 1, when one of the numbers is 4. When one of the numbers is 4. And the others, whatever they are, doesn't matter. The product will be a multiple of 4. So how many such combinations are there? So let's take it's only 4. We're taking only 4, no 8. We're not taking 8 also. So that means out of 9, we are removing 2. So that means 7C2. Case 2. We're taking 8. And we're not taking 4. So that we can keep the case of selection of 4 and 8 distinct, separate, no overlaps. This will also be 7C2. Case 3. There could be also possibilities where you're taking 4 and 8. This will be 7C1. Because out of the remaining 7, you have to select any one. And lastly, one more could be 2 and 6. Because those are the remaining 2 numbers, 2 and 6. And any one odd number. Any one odd number. You cannot take 4 and 8 again, please understand. I've covered all the possible cases of 4 and 8. So out of the remaining 5 odd numbers, you can take. So sum of this, which is 21, 21, 7, and 5 will again give you 54. You could also do it like this, but this is better. Moving on. Question number 11. Let ABCD be a cyclic quadrilateral. So it's a circle. And in this you have AB equal to 15. BC equal to 20. That's 20. CD is equal to 24. AD we do not know, but we know AC. AC is 25. Then AD is how much? So here I would draw your attention to the following combination of sides, the triplet 15, 20, 25. Look at the ratio 3:4:5. That means it is right angle. So the moment this is right angle in cyclic quadrilateral, opposite angles are supplementary. If this is 90, this will also be 90. Now look at the triangle ADC. You know 2 of the sides. You can definitely find out the 3. Again, please recall a Pythagorean triplet. Something 24 and 25. So that something has to be 7. 7, 24, 25 forms a right angle triangle. Or you can find out AD as square root of AC square minus CD square, which is nothing but 625 minus 576. Or you can apply A square minus B square also. 25 minus 24 is 1. Into 25 plus 24 is 49. Root 49 is 7. My answer. So again, not very complicated. So this question, if you know the basics of triangles and little bit of circles, that the opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral are supplementary, I think we'll be able to complete the task. Question number 12. Have a look at this. Let M is equal to this matrix given to us. So it's a 3 by 3 matrix, as you see, 1, 1, 1, A, B, C, A square, B square, C square, where A, B, C are real numbers such that the sum is 0 and A into B into C is not 0. So that means none of A, B, C can be 0. Right? They're all non-zero real numbers. If determinant of this matrix is 0, so that means determinant 1, 1, 1, A, B, C, A square, B square, C square is 0. Then the maximum possible value of this expression is how much? So we can simplify this by doing some column operations. So let's do C2 minus C1. So when I do that, 1, 0, A square, B minus A, B square minus A square. Let's apply C3 minus C1 also. So it will be 0, C minus A, C square minus A square. Out of this, we can take B minus A common. Out of this, we can take C minus A common because this is B minus A into B plus A. So that will be what? If I take B minus A common, C minus A common. And what will I be left with? By the way, I'm just simplifying the left-hand side. I'll put equal to 0 a little later. And this will be what? 1 into, since we're taking this out, 1 into C plus A minus 1 into B plus A or A plus B. So when you simplify, this left-hand side will become B minus A into C minus A into this will simplify as C minus B. This equal to 0. Right? Right-hand side was 0. So if the product of 3 integers is becoming 0, not integers, sorry, product of 3 real numbers is becoming 0, what does it mean? Either this is 0 or this is 0 or this is 0. So here can we say either B minus A is 0, that means B equal to A, or C minus A is 0, or C minus B is 0. All right. So these three are 0. Now, if you take B equal to A, then what would happen? If B is A, observe C will be minus 2A. C will be minus 2A. And what about C equal to A? If you put C equal to A, B equal to minus 2A. And here, if you put B equal to C, A will be minus 2B, right? And thus, what will this expression become? Observe, what will this expression become? It will be A square plus B square by C square will be equal to, if you take the first case, C square is minus 2A whole square. A square plus B square is 2A square because A is equal to B. So it's half. So the value of the expression could be half, but he's asking us for the maximum. Maybe we'll get a better answer in the other cases. C equal to A. So then A square plus B square will be equal to, if you take B square plus A square, it will be 5A square. I hope you see that. A square plus 4A square will be 5A square. By C square is again A square, it will become 5. In the second case, we're getting 5. So what about the third case? Third case is B equal to C. So then A is minus 2B. So A square plus B square will be 5B square. By C square is B square. Again, it will be 5. So that means we get half 5 and 5. So we take the maximum value as 5 here. Because it's asking us for the maximum value, we'll mark the answer as, we'll write the answer as 5. Next, 13th one. Ram purchased 3 oranges at 20 rupees each and 5 mangoes at 38 rupees each. So 3 oranges at 20 rupees each would mean overall cost will be 60 rupees for the oranges. 5 mangoes at 38 rupees each would mean the overall cost for 5 mangoes will be 38 into 5, 190 rupees. Let me write this down. And then sold them by offering discount of 25% and 20% on the fixed mark prices of oranges and mangoes. Oranges, mangoes. So what's the cost price of 3 oranges? It's 3, right? Cost price is 60 rupees. And here it is 190 for 5. 25 and 20% are the discounts offered. If he earned a profit of 50% on selling the oranges alone, so profit, 50% on 60 will be 30 rupees profit. So that means the selling price will be 90. And a total profit of 32% on selling all the fruits. So what is all the fruits? It's 250 rupees cost price. And what is 32% of 250? It will be what? 80 rupees, right? 80 rupees profit. So that means here we made 50 rupees. So that means the selling price of 5 mangoes will be 240 rupees. But we have one more element to consider, all right? One more thing to consider, that's discount. We have not covered that yet here in the table. Then the marked price of each mango was, we'll have to consider discount, right? Now observe this. Observe this. Let me try to cover the discount part and marked price also. We are offering 25% discount on oranges. Now think about it. Let's do some mental calculations. After offering 25% discount, if you're selling at 90, can I say the mark price must be 120? So 25% of 120 is 30 rupees discount. 120 minus 30 will give you 90. After offering 20% discount and selling it at 240, that means the mark price should be 300. And 20% of this is 60 rupee discount. 300 minus 60 will give you 240. Now what is he asking us? Mark the price of each mango. 5 mangoes. 5 mangoes. Marked price was 300. So thus can I say my answer will be simply 300 by 5, which is what? 60 rupees. So the answer here will be 60 rupees. All right. I hope we are clear with this. So no need to form this kind of table, but if you draw it in a structured way in the test, things, such things actually help us, all right? So if you do it in a structured way, even a puzzle, right, that we have solved, the LR puzzle, if you do it in a structured way, then things will be very easy to deal with, very easy to solve. So the answer is 60. 14th one. The Celsius scale of temperature can be converted to the Fahrenheit scale using the relationship this F is equal to 1.8 C plus 32, where F and C are temperatures recorded in degree Fahrenheit and Celsius respectively. Ajay noted down the temperature of a chemical reaction as X degree Fahrenheit. So that means what was the actual temperature noted down? The actual was, let me write it this way, some X degree Fahrenheit, but reported it as X degree Celsius by mistake. So what did he report? X degree Celsius, that means how many degree Fahrenheit? Let's take everything in Fahrenheit. So if he reported X degree Celsius, then the value in Fahrenheit will be 1.8 into X plus 32. Plus 32. So this is what he actually, degree Fahrenheit. So this is what he actually noted. Sorry, one second. So this is what he actually noted, but reported it slightly differently, all right, higher, as you can see. So how much higher? So this is how much higher? 0.8x plus 32 degree Fahrenheit higher. If this led to a recording of the temperature that was 144% higher than the actual. So 144 higher than the actual would mean what? This difference divided by the original should be equal to 144%, which is 144 by 100. Simple. So when you simplify, x goes 36 times, 25 times. Now just cross multiply and solve. So when you cross multiply, let's see what do we get. It will be 20x plus 25 into 32. This will be equal to 36x. So 16x will be equal to 25 into 32. So hence the value of x will be 25 into 2, which is 50. So the value of x is 50. Now what is he asking us? Then x is equal to what? Right? X is what? So x will be equal to, x is 50. 1 second. Please note what is this x here? Ajay noted down the temperature of a chemical reaction as X degree Fahrenheit, but reported it as X degree Celsius by mistake. If this led to a recording of the temperature that was 144% higher than the actual temperature in Celsius scale. So sorry, 1 second. 144% higher than the actual in Celsius scale, then X is equal to how much? So in case of Celsius scale, if you notice, this value should be taken down as this, right? 1.8 into X plus 32. So thus the answer here will not be 50. All right, it should not be 50. So my answer out here should be 1.8 into 50. X is 50. I'll put it here plus 32. Which will give us what? 90 and 32 will be 122. So the value of x, of course, it's 50, but we want this expression out here, right? The value in Fahrenheit, that will be 122 degree. So the value of x will be 122. Okay. So the answer for this could be worked out like this. Next one, 15th one. Let S denote an arithmetic progression whose first term is either 132 or 158. And the common difference is an even integer less than 10. So let's say the common difference was D, it should be less than 10 and it should be even. If the nth term of S is 174, so somewhere along the way I'll get 174 here also and here also. Then the number of possible distinct values of n. So please understand, I could have this arithmetic progression also, this also parallelly, whose first term is 132 or 158. So we could have two different arithmetic progressions and thus multiple values of n might be possible. He's asking us number of possible distinct values of n. So here, what is this nth term is equal to first term plus n minus 1 into d. D is an even number less than 10. And this will be equal to what? First term plus n minus 1 into d. We solve this. You'll get n minus 1 into d should be 42. 174 minus 132. This will be what? N minus 1 into d will be 174 minus 158 is how much? 16. Now let's take some cases. So here we know that D should be an even number and it should be less than 10. So that means D can be either 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 only. No other value is possible. Can it be 0? No. Can it be negative? No, again, because as we can see that the arithmetic progression is an increasing arithmetic progression. 132 is becoming 174, 158 is becoming 174. So D can only be these. So suppose if D is 2, which is possible here, if D is 2, then n minus 1 will be 21. You'll get n as 22. Possible. N could be 22 terms. D is 6, because basically I want D to be a factor of 42. It cannot be 4. So if you take D is 6, if D is 6, then n will be 8. Right? N minus 1 will be 7, so n will be 8. So we got two values from the first case. We cannot take n as D as 8 because 8 is not a factor of 42. Come to this. D is 2. So if you put D as 2 here, then n minus 1 will be 8. So n will be 9. Possible. Put D equal to 4. If you put D equal to 4, again n minus 1 will be 4. That means n is 5. Next, we cannot put D equal to 6 because 6 is not a factor of 16. Put D equal to 8. If D is 8, then n minus 1 will be 2. So n will be 3. So we are not interested in the value of n. Please understand, we are only interested in how many distinct values can n take. So as we see here, that is what you're asking us, right? Then the number of possible distinct values of n is, as we can see here, there are 5 distinct values. So my answer for this question will be 5. All right. So with this, we have come to the end of the essay part. As I was informing you at the start of this session, we'll be taking up the MCQ part tomorrow. All the 30 questions will be covered, will be discussed in tomorrow's session. So tune in at same time again tomorrow when we'll be discussing the MCQ part. But for today, we are not done with this session yet. We have the language section, the English section still to be covered. So please stay tuned. You would be joined very soon by my colleague Lakshmi ma'am. She would be taking up the VARC part. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek sir. Hello, everyone. So now the answers are out, the response sheet is out. I hope all of you are in high spirits. Whatever your performance may have been in the exam, it is important for you to understand what went right and what went wrong because I'm sure many of you have exams ahead of you too, right? So now we have looked at some of the questions in the quant section. I'm here to take you quickly through the questions in the verbal ability section, okay, or what we call the English language section. Yeah. I hope all of you can see my screen. My eyes are on the chat box, in the chat box rather, too. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask at any point if you need any clarifications. Like I said, it is important for you to be clear of why your answer was right or why it was wrong. Okay, so let's run through this discussion. The English section, as you know, is a little lengthier compared to the quant section. I'm not going to take you verbatim through the reading comprehension passages. Just going to give you a gist of the passages because you have done them already. For those who are planning to take the exam later and have joined in now, again, you can find the papers online. Okay, right now I'm only giving you a gist of the passages, and that applies mainly to reading comprehension. There was no major change in the pattern. We had 2 reading comprehension passages, 1 conversation analysis, then as usual, a few questions on vocabulary, idioms and phrases, grammar, and a few others on verbal reasoning, para, formation, para completion, etc. Okay, so we have a reading comprehension passage here with 6 questions. Now, this passage talks about communication among animals. Okay, so it starts with an observation by the author that animals have some kind of unique communication system among themselves, and it starts with the example of 2 dogs, the author's family dogs, okay, Pug and Jip. He talks about how they went hunting together, and how they would always plan out the hunting expedition together before venturing out. Okay, it talks about how they communicated with each other and how they seemed to have a tacit language. Tacit language means silent language. There were no audible utterances, no visible gestures, yet there was an interchange of ideas through the medium of the eye. It was like their spirits were communicating with each other. From this, so this is the idea flow that I'm giving you. Okay, so it starts with the example of these 2 dogs. Then the passage goes on to say that, in fact, while each species of animal has its own dialect, there is also a kind of lingua franca, in the animal kingdom. Lingua franca is a language that is shared by people who speak different languages. For instance, we can say English is a global lingua franca. In India, maybe Hindi is a lingua franca in most parts of the country. So similarly, the animal kingdom has a lingua franca, which means that if one animal or bird emanates a cry of warning, most other species of animals or birds will also understand it. Then the author goes on to give another example of an incident that he witnessed. Okay, so an anecdote rather. So this is about the quarrelsome and pugnacious is the same as quarrelsome, species of English sparrow, which appropriates every available locality for nesting purposes, and the native species are driven to the necessity of fighting for their rights. So the author has described the English sparrow as a quarrelsome species that invades and captures every available space for nesting, and other birds are forced to fight with them. Then here in this particular anecdote, there was a pair of robins who were planning to nest on a certain tree, and there was this pair of sparrows that was trying to fight with the pair of robins. And the robin, the author says, is more than a match for a sparrow. It can outcry the sparrow, but these sparrows started making a ruckus. They started making a lot of noise. This attracted some sparrow friends, but then it turned counterproductive to the sparrows, because it also attracted a lot of other birds from the neighborhood. They all came to the rescue of the robins, because the sparrow here is being described as the alien or the invader. So while the sparrows shouted out for help, all other birds also came flying and they rescued the robins. Okay, so the end of the story is the battle waged warm and fiercely for some minutes. When the sparrows were forced to seek safety in retreat, they had to fly away because all other birds came to the rescue of the robins. This is to illustrate how animals seem to have some kind of unique communication system among themselves. Okay, this is the passage. Shall we look at the questions? Any questions for me in the meanwhile? Dear students, I'm looking at the chat box, okay? Please do not hesitate to ask if you have any questions. The war between the robins and the sparrows ended when? When did they end? The sparrows had to fly away because all the other birds came to the rescue of the robins. That is the grand finale of our story. So let us see. The robins who are getting the better of the two parties. Yes, they say that the robins are more than a match for a sparrow. They were anyway getting the better of the two parties. Also got help from several other birds. Absolutely, that's what happened. So let us look at the other options. More than a score of robins in the immediate vicinity chased away the sparrows. Don't get confused with options that seem to look right. How many birds came? Let us see. How many birds came? When more than a score of friends gathered to the assistance of the sparrows. A score is a group of 20, okay, just like dozen is a group of 12. So more than a score of friends came to help the sparrows, but several other birds came to help the robin. Okay, so this is inaccurate. Not more than a score of robins. This is wrong. The sparrows communicated with an ear-piercing harangue, yes, for which they are particularly noted. That is what initially happened. But that is not when the war ended. After that, all these birds came flocking, right? The brethren of the sparrow flocked to the defense against the alien. No, the alien is the sparrow. The brethren of the sparrow came, but all other birds also came to the defense of the robin. So this is also distortion. The answer is 1. Okay. According to the passage, the English sparrow is quarrelsome, pugnacious, and ate. So you have to go and check. Okay, the description is written here. I'm not going to read it again. So let us see, what does it do? It is a native species driven to fight for its rights. No, the other birds are the native species that have to fight because of the sparrow. Occupies whatever space it can find to bring up its young ones. Yes, nesting is to bring up its young ones. That is understood. Is as useful as a robin, bluebird, or martin. No, it is not mentioned that the sparrow is very useful. Seeks quarters in the rural districts which other birds do not infect. Unfortunately, that's not the case. They usurp or capture spaces that other birds want to occupy. So 2 is the answer. Okay, very direct question. If you have read the passage properly, I'll tell you when I see a difficult question. The narrator observed that the 2 dogs, Pug and Jip, that belong to the family, okay, what did they do? Here, Pug and Jip in the very first para, this is where the description is given. Now, let's look at the options. They played with each other and hunted together. Yes, they went foraging, and foraging is looking for food, and hunting, it is written there. Communicated with each other about everything. This could be tricky. Please note, about everything. Everything is a very specific term. It is an extreme term, what we call a categorical term. Everything means everything. You cannot just use it casually in reading comprehension. Okay, they never would they start out an expedition without planning, but they communicated, and then by mutual consent they would separate. So we can't say that they communicated about everything. Okay, this could be a little confusing, but this is too specific. Whenever you see specific things, terms like this, you have to be careful. Thought much about each other throughout the day. No, they thought much about each other is mentioned. Again, you have to be careful. They thought much of each other, when romping together, not the whole day. That we cannot say. Again, it is extreme. Okay, it's exaggeration. Romped and foraged together in the yard. See, for questions like this, which are from a specific part of the passage, please go and check. Don't just think, this is written. Romp is written, forage is written, yard is written, so it is correct. No, that will not work in exams like this. Okay, romping together in the yard or foraging the neighboring woods and fields. Okay, so not everything was done together in the yard. Hence, the answer is option 1. Though it is an easy and direct question, it holds the potential for mistakes if you do not read the passage again. So some students think once we read the passage initially, we can answer all the questions. We don't need to waste time by going back. I do not really recommend that for all questions. If it is a general question based on the central idea of the passage, and if you're sure of the answer, that is okay. If it is a very specific question, it is always safer to go and check, especially in exams with negative marking, guys. Okay? Okay. The term lingua franca refers to a language which, so I told you it is a common language used by people who do not share the same language. Okay, now if you do not know this expression, from the context, see, each species of animal has its own dialect, yet indicates a transition or contrast. There is another sort of language, a sort of animal, lingua franca, which is common to all. This should give you the answer. So it is a common language which is different from the dialects of each species. That much you can infer from the context. Is a common one for people with different native languages. Yes, can't you infer that from the context? Humans cannot learn or understand. That has not been mentioned. We don't need to imagine things that are not mentioned. Is widely spoken in France because of Franca. I hope nobody would be imaginative enough to pick such options. Very easily eliminable. Is used by all birds and animals to communicate within their species. Now, this is very clearly written. Each animal species has its own dialect. Lingua franca is something different. So, this also is easy to eliminate. This option 1 is the answer. The author had observed the dogs' interchange of ideas several times and felt that they communicated. They communicated. How did they communicate? Here. There were no audible utterances, etc., but it looked like they conveyed their thoughts through their eyes. It was a spirit speaking directly to spirit, not using any sounds or body language cues. So let us look at the options. The direction each dog would take and what each would do. No, that is very, very specific. They planned together. It is written in the beginning. The bit about communication comes later. Okay, via sounds inaudible to humans and gestures that one could not understand. No, it says there were no audible utterances. That doesn't mean humans couldn't hear it. There were no sounds. That is what it means. With an understanding beyond words and sounds, absolutely. It was as if spirit was talking to spirit. With their heads in close contiguity, contiguous is together for 2 or 3 minutes. That is a specific behavior exhibited in the beginning. They have described it, but that is not the description of their overall communication. Okay, so you have to be careful. Just because something is written in the passage, that doesn't have to be the answer. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The cry of warning from a bird or animal. Now that has been mentioned where towards the end. Okay, here, from here onwards. Yeah, the warning cry has been mentioned here that if one species makes or gives out a cry of alarm, all other species are also alerted. And that is what is depicted by that anecdote also. So let us see. Is distinct enough for several species to interpret correctly. That is true. Could be that of a dog, crow, jay, or magpie. That, see, that is not aligned to the idea that the author is trying to communicate, right? Yes, it could be of any animal, but then all these cries are different. So it is not that all these animals have very similar cries. That does not make any sense. Makes the sportsman realize that he has lost his only chance of a shot. Now, you should not again go by specific things that are mentioned in the passage. What it says here is that the sportsman is a hunter. Okay. here. What it says is that many a sportsman or many a hunter has lost his chance of a shot only because of these cries of alarm. One animal elicits that or gives that cry, and all other species are warned. But that is not really relevant here. It's not the cry that makes the sportsman realize he has lost his chance of a shot. That doesn't make sense. It's an expression of fear of humans and predators. It is more of a warning, right? It is not necessarily fear. They're being smart enough to warn each other. That's all. We can't say that they are scared. So, one is the answer. Any questions about this set? This reading comprehension set is over. Do you have any questions for me, guys? Please let me know at any point, okay? Now we move on to the next passage. This is shorter passage. This is about anger. Anger specifically about rage bait, what we call rage bait here. It says starts by saying that anger can be a useful emotion in some ways, but rage bait is very toxic. Okay, what is rage bait? Rage bait has been declared as the Oxford Dictionary's word of 2025, and it explains what rage bait is here. Though it doesn't give a definition, we can understand what it is. Some companies draw huge profits from it, but it affects general well-being. Okay, now rage bait, here it says it is bad enough for adults, but it's terrible for children. Rage bait refers to online content designed to elicit anger or outrage. It is content that is meant to provoke people into anger. And once tech platforms figured out how this spirals user engagement, the algorithms got tweaked to feed us more and more of the same, activating a diabolical incentive structure of hate. Diabolical is devilish. Okay, so rage bait gives monetary benefits to the platforms because it creates user engagement, but it's very toxic and harmful. And it is a complete distortion of reality. Now it says just compare a newspaper report and online feed, and the difference would be dramatic. Okay, reading responsible reports of anything, pollution, terror attack, etc., will give you food for thought. But on social media, what you get is stuff doctored, doctored or engineered, both are the same, created, manipulated to send you into troll mode. To provoke you. Now, it ends by saying the best way to counter this is by blocking the accounts. Okay, if you do that, you deprive them of your attention. It also hurts them with the algorithm. It says David did defeat Goliath. The biblical reference, David was a small boy who defeated the giant Goliath. So while the tech platforms may be huge, we as individuals can also defeat this problem of rage bait. And the author calls this a civilizational battle because rage bait can affect the very foundations of our society. So we must fight against the atrophy of our attention. Atrophy is decaying. And it's captured by the most terrible types of things that we can be drawn to, and we must regain our sensibility. I had to read a bit because it has a little bit of complexity in terms of ideas, but it's about rage bait and finally how we can counter it. Yeah. The writer states all of the following except. Now, in a question like this, it is not based on a specific part of the passage. So you have to, this is why you need to have read the passage carefully before answering a question like this. Okay. If you're not sure of a particular option, you can go and check, but it may not be possible for you to check each option, because then you will have to go through the entire passage again, which is why you need to read the passage carefully in the beginning. Let us see. The author states all of the following except. So what the author does not state. Anger has been used by companies to gain monetary benefits. That has been mentioned right in the beginning, colossal profits from it. So that is true. We need the statement. That is not true. Anger has no useful purpose as it has no outcome. Is that true? No, it is clearly it clearly contradicts what is stated in the very beginning of the passage. Anger can be a useful emotion. We don't need to go beyond that. This is our answer. It contradicts a statement from the passage, right? Misuse of anger can negatively impact general well-being. Mentioned in the passage, rage bait. Constant anger has a function in certain situations. Constant anger, it can play a role in building a strong individual psyche as also a just society. It doesn't specify constant anger, but then sometimes you have to pick the best among options. So option 2 has clearly been contradicted in the passage. Hence, that is our answer. Okay, only this constant has not been mentioned, but this part has been mentioned. Okay, fine. The author is of the opinion that, again, it is a general question, not from a specific part of the passage. It is generally about the author's opinion. The response of users does not vary according to the media consumed. Unfortunately, no. The users can get provoked. We can infer that from the passage. Reading responsible media reports promotes thoughtfulness. It says, responsible reports are food for thought. So this is exactly what it means. This is correct. The reaction of users cannot be controlled by media. Again, the whole problem is that it can be controlled. Social media reports more widely and responsibly. Can we say social media is more wide and responsible than newspaper reports? No, it's almost the opposite that has been implied. Hence, 2 is the answer. Okay, any questions for me? Any comments for me? Okay. The reference to David and Goliath suggests that it says David did defeat Goliath, and you know that Goliath was a giant and David is a small person, tiny human. Here, Goliath refers to all these tech platforms, and David refers to each of us. So, what does it suggest? If powerful forces are defeated, they will revive. Is that what is mentioned? No. This is mentioned in the context of blocking them, right? The seemingly weak, that is us, can succeed in unequal fights against huge tech platforms. Yes. Resistance to large negative forces fails. No, just the opposite. Actions that seem unnecessary can be successful. Nobody said this seems unnecessary. 2 is the answer. Okay, going a little fast so that you don't get bored. But if you have any doubts, any questions, any question that needs clarification, please let me know. The phrase a civilizational battle could best be interpreted as a conflict that affects. So the question itself has given you some hint that affects what? It's a huge battle. It's a fundamental battle, right? So let's see what the answer is. A battle that affects a battle of classes within society. That does not make any sense, and it is not about classes. Nothing like that has been mentioned, class war. A change that affects a change into a new and better type of society. No, they are saying that here towards the end, what they're saying is, make no mistake, this is a civilizational battle. We must fight against the atrophy of our attention, its capture. So it is a battle in which the stakes are very, very high. It can shake the very foundations of our existence. That is what it means. Okay. So it is not a change into a new and better type of, yes, it may achieve well-being for us, But that is not the point. What it does it affect is the question. The outward forms of social beliefs and behavior, not just the outward forms. That has not been mentioned. It's a much deeper battle. The existential foundations of a society, yes, it says otherwise we can go into atrophy, we can decay, right? So it can affect the roots of our society. 4 is the answer. Okay. Okay, there's a little typo here. This is question 11. Okay. According to the author, rage bait works when here. When does it work? When here. Once tech platforms figure out how this kind of content spirals user engagement, the algorithms get tweaked to feed us more and more. So they create or tweak as in they distort or create algorithms. They create content that provoke us. That is when they succeed. Let us see. Users actively chase news content that conforms to their political biases. That is not specifically mentioned, that is when rage bait succeeds. Reading responsible accounts of pollution, etc., provides social media users food for thought. That is not the success of rage bait. That is responsible reading, right? Social media content fuels public anger to bring about constructive social change, then there is no problem. Rage bait is a negative thing, destructive thing. Tech platforms deliberately supply distorted content that incentivizes hate. Yes, that is the reason given in the platform, that they deliberately tweak their algorithms to provoke people into hatred. Okay, so the answer is option 4. The rage bait problem can be addressed by, okay, that is very clearly given by blocking these channels or platforms, right? It is specifically mentioned there. So let us see. Algo hacking content that is designed to produce anger, that is how the problem is created, not prevented. Blocking sites that propagate inflammatory content. Yes, that is very clearly, very, very direct and easy question. Consuming more news on social media is not going to help. It will only keep on provoking this rage bait. Turning one's attention more closely to hateful propaganda alone will not help. Some concrete action has to be taken, which is blocking. Okay, so this reading comprehension set is also over. Now, we have some other question types. Okay, this is a vocabulary question, fill in the blank question. The philosophy professor confused his students with a complex ethical problem. Mira was the only one who understood it and gave a or an dash response. What response? Correct response, maybe something that means something like correct, right? Let us see. Plausible response. Okay, plausible is possible to believe, or in this context, something that can be accepted as correct. Plausible. Let us look at the other options though. Hirsute response. Hirsute is hairy, very absurd choice here. Didactic response. Didactic is something meant to educate, educational, doesn't make sense. Obsequious response. Obsequious is excessively respectful. Okay, servile, slavish, that also does not make sense. So plausible response. Yeah, just about it is just about knowing the words. So if you have attended our vocabulary classes regularly and gone through our vocabulary material, I think almost all these words have been discussed. Hirsute, maybe not, but all the other words have been discussed in our classes. Yeah. The rich businessman. Okay, this is about certain idiomatic expressions. IPM tests you extensively on idioms. Rich businessman bought a luxury duplex apartment that must have cost or an what? Incredulous bombshell. It must have caused a bomb is okay. Incredulous bombshell is not correct expression. Incredulous is someone who does not trust very easily. So this does not make sense. Must have caused an arm and a leg. To cost an arm and a leg is to be very, very exorbitantly expensive. Cost an entire legacy, it is not used like that. Large bushelful is also not used. Cost an arm and a leg. You need to know the idiomatic expression, that's all. Now, again, while traveling on the highway, my car had a flat tire. To dash, it started to rain and I got drenched. So, first of all, he had a flat tire and something else aggravated it because it started to rain and he got drenched, he or she. So, it's not a very pleasant situation. So, it's obvious that things just got worse. So we need, see, all of these may make sense, but you need the proper idiomatic expression. To add to my complexities, we don't use such expressions. Okay, you may ask, why not? Well, that's not how we say it. Okay. To befuddle me or to confuse me, to perplex me further. All these are not used. This is not common usage. If you know the idiom, it is, you know it. If you don't know it, it's better not to blindly guess such questions. Okay. To make matters worse, this is something we often use in common language, right? To make matters worse, it started to rain. Okay. My roommate either hosts or attends parties every other day as she is very. This part is the same as she is very. Now we need to see what kind of quality a person has who either hosts or attends parties. So, someone who is very fond of parties, what kind of person would they be? They would be a very sociable kind of person, right? So, as she is very gracious, okay, hosting may be gracious. Gracious is very courteous, polite. Uh, Attending parties, there's nothing gracious about it per se. She's very gregarious. The word gregarious has the root greg, which means group or together. Gregarious means very sociable. Okay. She's very garrulous, means talkative. Egregious means extremely bad. The right answer is gregarious. Again, we have discussed all these words. Every single word here, I know we have discussed in our classroom. The journal, again, this is about this is to do with vocabulary. The journal published unverified details about the company's lack of business. Okay, so unverified details, not necessarily correct. So, is that right of the journal to publish such details? No. So, and this report on the business was calamitous. Okay, calamitous is disastrous. Possible if the journal published unverified details, it could have caused a disaster. Let us see if there's a better option. If not, we'll come back to this. This report on the business was careless. Well, not publishing details that are not verified is not really careless. They are deliberately doing it to create a scandal, probably. Right? This report on the business was calumnious. Calumny is a scandal or a rumor that is spread without any basis. Okay, so this was actually calumny. It was scandalous. This report on the business was callous. Callous is indifferent, coldly indifferent. That is not right. The answer is option 3. It was calumny. Okay. We had tried so hard to keep Maya's birthday party a surprise, but at the last minute, someone let the cat out of the bag. Haven't you heard this expression? A similar expression is spilled the beans. Both mean let out a secret or surprise. Send the cat. Okay, all these I'm not discussing. None of these make sense. Let the cat out of the bag is the correct idiomatic expression. Okay. Idiomatic expressions, many of them you get to know through you being exposed to usage of the language, but you should also learn them. Some of them you may not know, so you need to learn them. When the young man's father had a heart attack, the whole family panicked. He was the only one who kept his cool basically and immediately sent for an ambulance, right? Only he was calm. Got reasonable. He did not get reasonable. He acted reasonable. Got his cool. Kept his cool would have been okay. You don't say got his cool. Remained woke. What is remained woke? Doesn't make grammatical or semantic sense. There's no meaning. Kept his head. Okay. Kept his head is the same as kept his cool. Okay. Means remained balanced, calm. Okay. Now, incorrect part of the sentence is underlined. This usage is incorrect. You need to substitute it with the right usage. The college now has a creator to help students with their personal as well as academic challenges. It's not a creator, obviously. Who helps students with their personal and academic challenges? A counselor. Okay, counselor, not a counselor, member of a council. None of the others make sense. Consoler maybe, but consoler can only console, not help them actually deal with their problems. Okay, counselor. You all know these words, right? Counseling. Only thing is when we pronounce it, we may say counseling, so we don't know whether it is counsel or counsel. Okay, counsel means advice actually. The judge has disposed himself from the case because of his prior association with the company. Which word is correct here? Recused himself, not a very common word. Recuse himself means to voluntarily withdraw from something. You can remember it as excuse oneself. Okay, decide to withdraw because of his prior association with the company. Recant is to take back one's words. Recoup is to recover. Refrain is always accompanied refrain from means to stay away from. Okay, none of them make sense. Recuse is the right usage. Here, even as the team's die-hard fans lost all hopes of a win, alone came the last batsman and surpassed them. Surpassed whom? The die-hard fans lost all hopes of a win. So this doesn't make sense. First of all, alone came the batsman. Does not make sense. They'll come one by one only, alone only. It doesn't make sense, right? So let us see what makes sense here. Along came the last batsman and surprised them with 3 6s in a row. Surprised the fans because the fans had lost all hopes of a win. Along came, he came along. Okay. Along came the last batsman and superannuated means retired. Alone came does not make sense. So these two are wrong. Okay. The first option is right. See, this is just common sense. You don't even need to know any tough words here. It's just about common sense and familiarity with the basic usage of language. Don't get mad at me. I did not invite 1,000 people to our wedding. All I did was creating a link and sended it. There's no word called sended. Send, past tense is sent, but there is also another problem. All I did was when there is already a word indicating the past tense, you don't repeat the past tense again, right? All I did was do something. Then you don't say all I did was did something. Got it? So what is the answer here? Let us see. All I did was to create a link and sent it. All I did was to, you don't say that. That is incorrect usage. All I did was created a link. No, you don't need past tense. Did this already. It's called redundancy when you repeat the same tense again. We say, what did you eat or what did you do, right? We don't say what did you ate or what did you did. That is wrong. No, same thing. All I did was creating a link and sending it. No. All I did was is followed by the simple present tense. You don't need the continuous tense by usage. English language usage, no reason per se. That's how the language is. Grammar. Okay, grammar. All I did was create a link and send it. This is all I did. Okay, that is the correct answer. Although she's not been at her best this year, imagine that she would win this match against the reigning champion. No one would doubt her caliber as a sports person. This usage is wrong. Imagine that she would win. No, if she wins the match, no one would doubt. If she won the match, it is an imaginary situation. So let us see what comes closer. There are several ways of expressing an imaginary situation. Should she win this match against the reigning champion? Should she win this means if she were to win. Okay? Imaginary situation. Should she be winning this match? ING form is unnecessary. Imagine if she wins this, I told you. If she win, first of all, imagine if she win is wrong grammar. And also, imagine if she wins does not make sense. Imagine that is okay, but that whole construction is wrong. When you start with imagine, same problem 4 also. Imagine that she's winning this match, no one would doubt. No, should she win or if she were to win or if she wins, okay, all these would be correct. It's just grammar here. These are all questions of your questions that test your grammatical awareness. Any questions, guys? Any doubts? Any questions? Don't hesitate to ask me. Nobody has any questions? Okay. This is para completion. You have to pick the sentence that fits in the best. Now, I will not go through each and every sentence. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Okay. So, for para completion questions, you need to pick the sentence that logically flows from the previous sentence, but also gives a sense of completeness to the passage. Okay, the blank can be towards the end or anywhere in between, but it has to complete the para. Tech companies are spending billions to build data centers that power AI systems for growth and security. But data centers consume huge amounts of electricity, which has raised the cost of electricity for those living near the data centers. Okay, got it? Data centers consume a lot of power, and this has raised the cost of electricity in those regions. Some tech giants are now saying they will seek to pay not just for the energy its data centers use, but also to cover the cost of updating and adding necessary electricity to the grid. Okay, so some tech companies have offered to cooperate by paying for the costs created by their electricity use. Okay, so now let us look at what can complete this para. Not all tech companies will be able to afford the additional electricity cost. It only says some tech companies will do it, right? So that is irrelevant. This way, the anger of the public will not be directed at the tech companies. Nobody said that the public is going to be angry. That doesn't make sense. This way, the additional electricity cost will not be passed on to other local consumers. Yes, cost is the issue that was mentioned here, right? See, raise the cost of electricity. This is the problem. And the given sentence explains why the previous sentence is a proper solution to this problem. Governments should bear the additional electricity cost. This is an out of context suggestion. Okay. Hence, 3 is the answer. With access to content and streaming video platforms among Indian viewers increasing, producers and creators seem to be taking fewer risks. Streaming service subscribers in India have traditionally appreciated the craft, acting, and storytelling of some exceptional videos on platforms like Netflix and HBO. See, what are we saying? Now, fewer producers and creators are taking fewer risks. Traditionally, subscribers have appreciated storytelling of some exceptional videos. Then, driven by algorithms and a tendency to replicate templates that have worked in the past, Indian streamers increasingly favor star-lit shows and films that promise safety over experimentation. Hence, 2025 had fewer standout originals. So, we are talking of a transition here, from an appreciation of exceptional videos to a preference for standard formulaic kind of videos that are safer. So, we need probably a sentence that indicates that transition, right? Let us see. Now that smartphones are commonplace, viewing videos is no longer part of the shared and family time. That is against the whole tone of the passage. Since a large proportion of OTT viewers in India use smartphones to view videos, the content has to be discerning. Is there any talk of OTT here? No. No, not really. Without a discerning viewership, Indian producers have had to use social media to promote and sell their stories. Promotion and through social media is a totally new concept or new theme that has not been discussed later. Yet this past year, see, yet is a transition word. Indian producers have gravitated towards content that entertains a wider section of viewers. See, traditionally, they have appreciated some exceptional videos. However, now they have moved towards content that has a broader audience, appeals to the masses rather than exceptional content. Okay, that is the transition sentence. Hence, sentence 4 is the answer. Next question. I'm seeing if you are giving me if you have posted any comments. No. Till recently, weight loss drugs have been an elite privilege, creating a class system among those battling obesity and diabetes and setting new aspirational benchmarks for a healthy life. Manufacturers of weight loss drugs have now lowered their prices to tap into a booming health conscious market in India. Despite repeated clarification that the efficacy of the drug is codependent on diet, lifestyle corrections, etc. The drug is seen as manna from heaven. Manna from heaven means some boon from heaven that can solve all your problems. Then there is one more sentence, which is our missing sentence. This leads to the individual surrendering to a false sense of well being. Okay, so though there is repeated clarification that weight loss drugs will only work along with all these other things, diet, lifestyle corrections, fitness, etc. People seem to believe it's one panacea cure for everything, and that leads to a false sense of well-being. So now the sentence we are looking for is something similar to the previous sentence on the same lines. No transition there, right? It is a continuation. Weight loss drugs have allowed celebrities to parade their thin, age defying bodies. Why suddenly celebrities? That is out of context. This creates a false sense of complacency about the drugs, notwithstanding their side effects possible. Let us see. Uh, it is seen as manna from heaven. This creates a false sense of complacency, notwithstanding their side effects. This leads to the individual surrendering to a false sense of well being. Side effects is a little out of context here because nothing has been mentioned about that. What they're saying is that it will only succeed in tandem with, or if done along with other, if implemented along with other measures. That is the idea. They're not talking of side effects. So let us see. The once a week jab is seen as a convenience, obviating the need for any other action. That is the point. Though it has been repeatedly clarified that you need that weight loss drugs will only work in tandem with all these other measures, people have started feeling this is a one stop solution, manna from heaven, and that you don't need to do anything else. This one jab a week is enough. So, side effects is out of context compared to option 3, which is more relevant. Weight loss is a path to thinness, a healthier lifestyle, and a more attractive image. That is about weight loss. The question here is about the effectiveness of the weight loss drugs, right? So, this is also irrelevant. 3 is the answer. Okay. Writing has long been a primary tool for thinking. Then we have the blank, the articulation of thought, a foundational human skill, risks atrophy deterioration due to the deployment of AI. Help from AI is a gentle, persistent pressure. Removing idiosyncrasies means your own little weird characteristic styles and pushing writers towards a standardized middle of the road voice. In a manner of speaking, the originality of the writer's voice is lost because of the standardization due to AI. Hence, the unique signature of the writer is eroded by an algorithm. Fine. So, this is about the impact of AI on writing. Now, here, writing has long been a primary tool for thinking, the articulation of thought, a foundational human skill through writing. Risks atrophy due to AI. Okay. Now, let us see. Thinking is a process expressed best by smooth, frictionless prose assisted by AI. This is something positive about AI, and the next sentence is negative about AI. That cannot be. You don't have any transition or bridge there. For writers, the help provided by AI, again, this is a positive sentence about AI. So that can be eliminated because the very next sentence is about atrophy, which is negative. Okay. Without human effort, however, difficult concepts cannot be easily communicated to the reader. Mm, it is not about difficult concepts not being communicated to the reader at all. It is about the skill getting into a state of atrophy. It is about losing the skill of writing, right? When that process, which process? The process of writing. Writing as a tool for thinking. When that process is delegated to an outside agency, thinking itself becomes superficial. Okay, that is the transition. When writing is outsourced to another agency, thinking itself becomes superficial. So, this is the answer. You just need to look at the tone of the author there. The newly appointed, okay, now para completion is over. We are looking at fill in the blanks, 3 blank fill in the blanks, which is a characteristic feature of IPM. Over the years, it has been a standard question type. The only thing is here in this here, they have added some questions where instead of one sentence with 3 blanks, they've given multiple sentences, but the concept remains the same. Okay, so for these questions, guys, don't just go by the first blank and say, huh, this looks good. Okay, you have to compare all the 3 blanks. Each option you have to take and check. Okay, now I'm not going to show you that entire process. We'll discuss the answers only. The newly appointed professor found it hard to dash the students who were dash and dash to the topics discussed during lectures. To encourage the students who were withdrawn and indifferent to the topics. Yes, he was a newly appointed professor. He didn't know how to encourage the students who were withdrawn. They were in their own world and they were indifferent. They were not bothered about the topics discussed. Correct. How to engage the students is okay. The students who were deficient in what? What did they lack? We don't know, right? And diffident to the topics. No, diffident means not confident. That doesn't mean. Inspire is okay, but belligerent means quarrelsome. Doesn't make sense. Uninstructed to the topics. No, that doesn't fit well. Enthused. The first words are all fine, but difficult. Who are difficult and undisciplined to the topics. Why will they be undisciplined to the topics? None of them make sense. So, option 1 is the answer. Some philosophers have used a dash of bees as a transparent metaphor for modern something, modern society. No? In the hive, they argue each bee works for its own personal gain. Every profession has its own vulnerabilities, and everyone dash the passions of others. Passion. Okay, let us see. Collection of bees as a metaphor for modern socialism. Why socialism? Not really. Everyone admits the passions of others. Well, that doesn't make sense at all. And you don't call it a collection of bees. You have to look at the right terms, right? It is either a swarm of bees or here it is a colony or a community of bees. These are the words that are used for bees. Okay. So you need to look at the right terms here. Congregation is a gathering. Objectivity, for modern objectivity doesn't make sense. Conglomeration is a huge term for a group of companies, etc. For modern armies, it is used as a metaphor for modern armies, no? Community of bees as a transparent metaphor for modern societies. That makes sense. Every profession has its own vulnerabilities. Everyone exploits the passions of others. Okay? Yes. Even as technology threatens to alter medicine, unimaginably makes sense. Okay? Doctors work with the conviction that they are dash immutable now. Immutable doesn't make sense. Immutable means unchangeable. In matters of prognosis and treatment, prognosis is understanding how the disease will progress. History, however, shows that those most invested in their own dash are rarely the best judges of their own irreplaceability. Subculture, where is subculture coming in here? Nothing to do with the culture or subculture of doctors, right? Okay. Even as technology threatens to alter medicine, invaluably means very valuably. So that doesn't make sense. You can straight away eliminate that. Again, doctors work with the conviction that they are opportunistic. That is not a conviction. Opportunistic is something negative, may exploiting or taking advantage of some opportunity. That doesn't make sense. Okay. To alter medicine irrevocably beyond repair. Because it is a threat, it has to be a negative word. It can't be a positive word. Doctors work with a conviction. So even as technology threatens to change medicine beyond repair, doctors work with the conviction that they are indispensable. They cannot be avoided in matters of prognosis and treatment. However, history shows that those most invested in their own survival are rarely the best judges of their own irreplaceability because they are concerned about their own survival. They will not think that they can be replaced. Okay. Here, incredibly is okay, but they are reliable in matters not strong enough and invested in their own concerns. Invested in their own concerns is not proper usage. Bothered about their own concerns, right? Occupied with their own concerns. So it's also about usage. Okay. Option 3. A useful definition for anger can be found in Aristotle, which is also the starting point for an established Western dash of reflection. Okay, Western, what of reflection? We don't know, culture or let's see. Anger is response to dash damage to something or someone one cares about, and damage that the angry person believes to have been unfairly may be inflicted. Okay. So a useful definition for anger can be found in Aristotle, which is also a starting point for an established Western habit of reflection. Anger is a response to willful damage, deliberate damage, need not be. That the angry person believes to have been erroneously is by mistake. Then you don't get angry if you think someone has committed a mistake, right? Okay. Western tradition of reflection. Yes, anger is a response to significant damage to something, okay, and a damage that the angry person believes to have been wrongfully, not wrongly, but wrongfully means unfairly inflicted, makes sense. Philosophy of reflection is okay. Response to consequential damage, you don't say consequential damage, consequence of something, and unsuspectingly is unknowingly, so why would one get angry because of that? Western culture of reflection is okay. Response to universal damage, it doesn't have to be universal damage to make you angry. Uncannily is in a way that is almost impossible, that doesn't make sense, so 2 is the answer. Okay. Makes sense? Any questions for me so far? Any comments? Hi, good evening. I just saw a comment here. Good evening. Okay. Any questions? Please let me know. The dash of the uneducated masses can be described as a dash faith that believes in fake godmen based on. So, what of the uneducated masses? The vulnerability, all there. Gullibility. Gullibility means the tendency to be fooled, right? A blind faith may be something with that meaning, that believes in fake godmen based on instinct or emotion rather than on any what? Any strong or a clear premise. Okay. The hysteria is a mass kind of frenzy of the uneducated masses. Okay. Jingoistic faith. No, jingoistic is extremely narrow patriotism where you hate all other countries. Okay, so that doesn't make sense here. Logical premise is okay. Uh, Credibility of the uneducated masses. No, credibility is trustworthiness. You can trust them, not their tendency to trust. So we can eliminate this. You don't need to look at the others. The indifference of the uneducated masses can be described as a strong faith. If they are indifferent, then why are they having a strong faith? Indifferent is not bothered, right? Doesn't make sense. Credulity means gullibility, tendency to trust too easily. Gullibility, the tendency to be fooled because they trust too easily. Okay, can be described as a groundless faith that believes in fake godmen based on instinct or emotion rather than on any objective rational premise. Okay, you got it? Option 4. Okay. In the hothouse dash of social media, you are filled with envy when you scroll through photos of exotic dash and gleaming houses. But you reassure yourself. So, in the hothouse, something of social media, you feel jealous or envious when you see all these exotic, whatever, okay, photos. But you reassure yourself that only dash people want these things. Your humble home is all that you really want. So when you see things in social media, you may feel envious, but then you tell yourself that you don't really need all this. Let us see. In the hothouse climate of social media, climate, You are filled with envy, exotic vistas, locations. Okay, still okay. That only ordinary people want these things. Your humble home is all that you really want. This is where you get the real contrast. Ordinary people. Here, what they are saying is you are ordinary. Some people want something extraordinary. So this contradicts the idea of the passage, right? Passage or sentence. Yeah. Hmm. You have to read the whole thing to understand. So it is time consuming, okay, in the exam. In the hothouse atmosphere of social media, okay, you are filled with envy when you scroll through photos of exotic vacations and gleaming houses, okay. You reassure yourself that only superficial people want these things, okay. Superficial people are those who look at the external or material comforts. Or you console yourself that only such people who look at the material things in life, they only want these things, and you are happy with your humble life. Okay, fine. Hothouse excitement of social media doesn't make sense. Exotic locations is okay, but overachieving people want these things. That does not really collocate, thereby overachieving people want these. You're saying that you are not an overachiever, you are a normal person. See, there is no need for a very specific term like that, like overachieving person. Okay, it's too specific. Again, it's about usage. You have to just use your common sense. In the hothouse madness of social media, you feel exotic destinations is okay. Embarrassing people, why? Not necessarily embarrassing people who want these things. So option 2 is correct. Option 3 is close, but excitement of social media, you are filled with envy also doesn't collocate well, doesn't go well together. And overachieving is a little out of context, little extra there. Okay. Okay, now we have what we call conversational analysis, which is a form of RC, reading comprehension. I'm not reading the entire passage, it'll take a long time, but this is about it's an interview. Conversation analysis is the analysis of an interview. Okay, so the host or the interviewer says that we think of ancient Egypt as something divine, but you, the guest there, the person who is being interviewed, say that it was a product of logistical necessity. Egypt was a product of logistics. So, how did the geography of the Nile dictate Egypt's economic and political structure? So, the rest of it is the guest's response to this question. The guest says that the Nile is a unique geographical corridor. Okay. So here the Nile flooded with remarkable regularity. So this created a specific if-then logic for administration. That is, if there was a flood, then what should you do? If there was a drought, then what? So if the flood reached a certain height, you would have abundance of grain. If it reached Y, you faced famine. Okay. This correlation between the flood level and agrarian yield enabled the first high-level systemic inferencing in history. So it was because of that geographical phenomenon that in Egypt they had to be actively involved in nature, and they had to inference from make inferences from certain patterns. Okay, a Nilometer was used to measure the Nile's water levels. This helped them in various things. Okay. Then also now the host is asking, the geography and geometry created a centralized logic gate in the operation of the state. Is that right? So the guest says, yes, exactly. The Nile is a single linear artery in a straight line. Whoever controlled the river controlled all transport and communication. So that was like a lifeline. That's what they mean. Okay. So in a forest or a vast plain, a rebellious group might hide or move. But in the Nile Valley, there is nowhere to go but the desert. So it's quite stable and predictable. Okay. This geographical confinement gave the government immense agency. Agency here is power to do something. Why? They could tax with 100% efficiency because they could know how much land was fertile each year based on the flood levels. That is the linear layout and the dependence of everything on this one river, Nile. And they also needed to resurvey the land after the silt covered the boundaries. So because of this flooding, what happened? It forced the development of geometry because every year they had to conduct a survey. Okay. Or every time there was a flood, they had to conduct a survey. Geometry was a practical tool for efficient governance, and this between geography, geometry, and governance, this tightly knit relationship, it was so tight that the Egyptian state remained fundamentally stable for 3,000 years. So it is this involvement of all these aspects that led to the longevity of the Egyptian civilization and the strength of the civilization. Okay, it was not just that, it was a divine phenomenon, as many people believe. Any questions, any comments so far? No? Okay. The term agency, a vocabulary-based contextual vocabulary question with respect to the government, refers to the power of the government. We saw this, right? This geographical confinement gave the government immense agency. Here means power. Okay, so let us see. Mercantile belief that the government controlled all commerce. Where are mercantile belief coming in? Ability of individual citizens to import and export on behalf of the, all out of context, very easy to eliminate, right? Department responsible for calculation and collection of taxes. So when you see agency, don't automatically think it is department. Please go and check. Gave the government immense, huge agency. So it can't be an agency they're talking about. That doesn't make sense, right? You can't say an immense tax collection body. Doesn't make sense. Government's ability to exert power, we just said it means power and organize resources within its territory. Okay, fine, makes sense. So that is the answer. What does the term linear artery? So all these questions are about certain contextual usages. What does the term linear artery imply about the Nile's role? We saw, right, that it means something like a lifeline. Okay, it was the perennial source of water for most citizens, not just water, that is too limited, right? It is talking of the immense control that the Nile held. It served as a singular vital channel for all movement and survival. Yes, it was the lifeline. It was a corpuscular, like a corpuscle thread that ran from the north to the south of the country. That looks quite plausible, but no, it doesn't describe the Nile in that sense, that it was like a corpuscle or a blood corpuscle. How does that make sense? Here, see, Nile is a single linear artery. Whoever controlled the river controlled all transport and communication. Okay, that is the thing. Responsible, sorry, a singular vital channel for all movement and survival in the region. Okay, it was a complex network of hundreds of small aortic streams. No, it cannot be. The question is, what does this term mean? You can't make all these random inferences. You have to base it on the tone of the passage, on what the author intends. Okay, got it? The author is talking about the importance of the Nile. So it has to be in line with that. Don't just look at the words linear artery and interpret it in whatever way you think is right. Okay. Why was geographical confinement beneficial to the central Egyptian government? It gave them immense power, right? Because the people were confined to that area, right? They could tax. The people had nowhere to go. They could tax with 100% efficiency. They knew exactly how much land was fertile, etc., etc. This is the reason. It provided a natural defense against both land as well as sea-based invasions. Out of context, no talk of invasions here. Don't imagine any answer, okay? It allowed for the easy expansion of the Egyptian state, not mentioned. It restricted the population to a narrow observable corridor, facilitating administrative oversight of movement and resources. It was easy to observe. It has been mentioned. It minimized the need for a complex governance structure by forcing all citizens to live in a single city. Not really. Minimize the need for a complex governance structure. No. Made it easier for the government to observe everything. That is what is clearly mentioned. Okay. Just go by the grain of the passage. The host refers to a logic gate. What is the input and the output of this gate? Okay, this could be a confusing question, though it is a very logical question. This is not directly mentioned in the passage. What could be the input and what could be the output? Let us go and see. Okay, this could be tricky. Anybody who found this question tricky, you can tell me here. You stated that the geography and the geometry created a centralized logic gate in the operation of the state. So the person is saying exactly. Okay, the Nile controlled everything and the government could tax because they knew exactly how much land was fertile each year based on the flood levels. So that is the input, the data. The data is very predictable and observable. Based on the data, they decide what to do. Okay, this requires a certain levels, a high level of inference. Not a direct question. Those who had no idea what this meant, it would have been better for you to leave this question rather than take blind guesses. So, what is the input and what is the output? Environmental data, yes, and administrative action. Absolutely. That is the logic gate. What the author says, it is very predictable there. The data is available and the government could decide what to do. Okay. Agriculture and exports out of context. Nilometer was in a previous context, right? Output is inference. See that nilometer, yes, it is possible, but nilometer was in a different context. After this, the author moves on, the host moves on to this question. You also stated that. So there is a transition. Hence, we know it's not about the nilometer. You have to be a little careful, okay? Prayers and sacrifices, increased harvest does not make any sense out of context. Hence, one is the answer. Tricky question. So, good job, those who got this right, and others hope you were careful. If the nilometer reading in a given year was significantly lower than that of the previous year, what does it mean? There could be, maybe there was not enough rain, not enough water, right? What logical conclusion would the Egyptian bureaucracy arrive at? So obviously, if the nilometer reading is lower, there's not going to be no floods, but there could be a drought, right? Let's see. They should immediately increase the volume of grain exports. Why? If there's not going to be enough rain or enough water, why will they export whatever grains they have? Tax revenues for the coming year would likely increase. Oh no, we don't know what the production is going to be if there's not enough water. The quantum of arable land, arable is land that can be irrigated and cultivated, would remain unchanged that year. Why? We can't say if the water levels are lower, then it will affect the quantum of arable land, right? Food reserves would need to be managed strictly to prevent famine. Yes, if the water levels are going to be less, then it could mean a drought and famine. Okay. Inference question again, or we can call it an application, not even inference. It's an application question because the answer is not within the passage. You will have to apply what you read to the context. What was the primary purpose of the nilometer? Very a direct question to measure the water levels of the Nile River. It's very clearly written there. To measure the consumption of water by the capital city. No, consumption not mentioned. Calculate the distances using the flow of water in the Nile. Not the distance, it's about the level of water directly mentioned. To track the speed of trade ships traveling downstream, very easy to eliminate. To measure riverine levels to predict agricultural yields and fixed tax rates, everything is mentioned. Very easy question. So this passage had a couple of confusing questions which you should have left if you were not sure. To those who got it right, good job. Okay. Okay. Now we have para formation questions. That's it. This is the end of the paper. We have 5 para formation questions. Okay, para formation, when you solve it, you have to read it line by line. Now, if I do that, I will keep you up late into the night. I'm not doing that. Allow me to discuss the answer for each of these questions. Okay, when we teach in class, we take each sentence, we see which should be the starting sentence, but that would be very time consuming. Since the key is out, I will discuss the key here and explain the logic of the key. Okay, so this passage starts with the sentence 3. Okay, pandemics are expected to occur more often and become more deadly because of climate change, etc., because of various factors. Now, why is it the starting sentence? Because it is a very general sentence, what we call the topic sentence. Okay, then it is followed by what? Followed by 1. It is going to be less of freak biological occurrences and more like hurricanes. See, that is directly related to 3. They are expected to occur more often and become more deadly. So it is not going to be a freak biological occurrence, but it's going to be like these natural phenomena which are also increasing and becoming more devastating, say health experts. Now, connected to this is another statement of the health experts. Okay, it's hard to predict which pathogen could launch the next global health crisis, but infectious diseases experts say they are closely watching various outbreaks worldwide because it is going to be increasingly frequent. These experts are closely watching the trends. Okay, so this is about worldwide signs for pandemic potential. Then a new idea, a manufactured pathogen, an artificial one, is also a danger due to advances in medical technology and AI. A single rogue actor can create a threat. A single rogue actor means a single bad one. Because of so many advancements, a single manufactured pathogen can create a threat. Okay, 3, 1, 2, 4. Hope the logic is clear here. If you have any doubts, why not some other, please ask me. Yeah, as I told you, since this is not a teaching session, I'm not taking all the sentences and solving them like we do in the exam. I'm just explaining the logic of the correct answer. Okay, this is not how we teach it in class. Yeah. Now, this question starts with a discussion on certain population trends in China, okay, where birth rates fall and death rates rise. So this starts with the fall in birth rates. So China's birth rates fell for the 4th consecutive year. That is sentence 3. Now, if you are talking of birth rates, you have to finish that discussion. Don't jump to death rates. That's a basic logic of para formation. Hence, one more sentence about birth rate. Despite the government, so here it fell. Now, 4 gives the exact figures. That is what we call general to specific. In para formation, we usually have this order. General to specific. So birth rates fell is a general sentence. The specific data is given in 4. What exactly did it fall to? Then at the same time, its death rate rose to this much. Okay. Then a general conclusion. Faced with an aging population and sluggish economy, Beijing proposes to encourage more young people to marry and have children. So solution also. A general statement and a solution. Problem, solution. Okay. 3, 4, 2, 1. Next question. This one is about a particular singer's songs, how popular they are. So that singer, the sentence that introduces the singer should be the first sentence, which is sentence 2. 3 of Sienna Rose's jazz-infused soul songs are in the viral top 50. Now, this is a positive sentence about Sienna Rose's songs. Okay, so about their popularity. So, is there any other sentence that talks of this same singer's popularity? Yes, that is 4. The most popular dreamy ballad titled Into the Blue has been played for more than 5 million times. These two sentences are what we call a mandatory pair because they talk about the same idea. Okay, how popular Sienna Rose's jazz infused soul songs are. Now, if you look at sentences 1 and 3, these two are negative sentences. If you read it, as I told you, I'm not reading the entire thing in detail now. It's not a class, but 1 and 3 are negative. So, when two sentences are positive and two sentences are negative, there should be a transition sentence with but or yet or however. So it's very easy to do the placement. But, hmm? But streaming service Deezer points out that many of her albums are computer generated. That is the problem. And 3 gives further evidence. Look closer, you will see the indications of an AI artist such as no social media presence, no videos, nothing. So basically, this Sienna Rose's songs may be AI generated. Okay, 2413. Got it? Now we have another question. What is this about? Okay. This is also about population growth. Okay, the relentless and about various attributed reasons. Okay, so here you may get confused whether 1 is the starting sentence or 4 is the starting sentence. Here you will need to read all the sentences to understand the logic. So, 4 is the starting sentence. Once you read all the sentences, you will realize the relentless growth of world population over the last 150 to 200 years was only possible because more and more food and other items of consumption became available. A very general opening sentence. Okay. Then it goes on to explain that the world production of food has increased for two main reasons. So population as connected to food production. Then why food production increased? Two main reasons. Now, two main reasons here, one sentence says at the same time. So that has to be the second reason. Very simple. New lands have been brought into use for farming for the first time. New techniques have made it possible. That is one reason. At the same time, the development of various branches of science, blah, 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 enabling more adults to reach old age. Okay, so this is why production of food has increased because more adults reach old age means more demand for food and more hands to work also. 4, 1, 3, 2. There are some there are some connectors here which make it easy for you to get the order. Now we come to the last question. The last question, dear students, we found it a little problematic. There is a potential for an objection here, please note, okay? We are not saying that it is definitely wrong, because in a verbal reasoning question, there are different ways of interpreting it. And the question setter may have had a line of reasoning which is a little counterintuitive. However, so if anybody got the given answer, which is 1432, then there is probably no need to worry about it. You did get the given answer. However, we feel that this order does not seem very logical. Okay, so if any of you have got a different answer, if you think there is scope for raising an objection, this is the question. Because we at time agreed that there seems to be a potential error here. Here, because if you start with this sentence, in established companies, putting in extra hours is usually a way to get ahead. Elon Musk once said that no one ever changed the world on a 40-hour work week. They are less likely to be promoted too. Okay, that is an established trend that they are starting with. That is okay. But then 4 says 9 to 5 is still alive. There is no transition word, no but, no however, that is okay. But the transition is too abrupt, right? In established companies, putting in extra hours is important. People are less likely to be promoted if they only work for 40 hours a week. Then they are saying 9 to 5 is still alive without any but or however. Okay. And then again, it goes on to say how long people actually work is not the same as how long they ought to. Jobs, incomes, and cultural norms vary so widely that there is no right answer. You say there is no right answer, and then you are saying there are also other ways to approach this question. You might argue that the optimal, so actually, um, 3 and 2 also do not make sense, right? None of the combinations really make sense here. Here you are saying that there is no right answer, and then you are saying there are other ways to approach this question. You might say that this question is only for policymakers. That does not make sense. So instead of starting with this one, what we all felt could be a better order is 4 3 1 2. Okay, 9 to 5 is still alive. A new survey of labor force data finds that the world's adult employed population works an average of 42 hours a week. Okay, then how long people actually work is not the same as how long they ought to. Jobs, incomes, and cultural norms vary so widely that there's no right answer. So 4 introduces the 4 is a catchy sentence that introduces the discussion. Then 3 goes on to say, actually, there's no correct answer for how long you work. Okay, 9 to 5 is the norm, but there's no specific answer for what should be the ideal time. Then 1 gives the other side of the story. 9 to 5 is on this side of sentence 3. Sentence 3 says there's no one right answer. Then 1 gives the other side. In established companies, putting in extra hours is considered favorable. Okay, and then 2 sums up the discussion by saying it need not be black and white like this. There can be other ways to approach this question also. So we feel that 4312 could be a better answer than the given answer 1432. Okay. So there is a potential for objection in this question. That brings us to the end of this discussion. We have discussed a few quant questions, and we have also discussed all the English language questions. As we told you earlier, we will discuss the remaining quant questions tomorrow. Okay. So that is it. Any questions for me? Any comments for me? If not, we wind up. Thank you everyone for attending this session. And if you have more exams to attempt, Wish you all the very best. Thank you.